Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Genix. What have I done again?
What are we going to do with this man?
I've not done anything wrong now.
No, you haven't.
I just introduced you.
I applauded you yesterday for the beautiful introduction, and then today you just flat. What happened?
Every day is not Christmas.
Okay, well, that's true. How are you, Tundu? You look
great.
lovely.
How are you? So do you.
Good, thank you. We're missing Rufai today. Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe. In Switzerland, during the Geneva summit, Russia's President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Joe Biden exchanged gifts. Biden received a stationery set decorated in the traditional Russian painting style of hukluma, while Putin received a pair of aviator glasses and a crystal figurine of bison. And during a press conference at the summit, Joe Biden mistakenly referred to President Vladimir Putin as President Trump.
I caught part of President Putin's press conference.
In the United Kingdom, 2 more men have been arrested over the shooting of Black Lives Matter activist Sasha Johnson. The mother of 2, dubbed the Black Panther of Oxford, remains in critical condition in a hospital after being shot in the head at a party in South London. And 59-year-old Corina Baines has been found guilty of murdering her 81-year-old husband by pouring boiling water mixed with 3 kilograms of sugar over his body as he slept at their home after a row. In the United States, the mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, announced on Wednesday that in an effort to encourage more people to get vaccinated, 10 lucky New Yorkers will be awarded a cash prize of $2,500 each after getting their COVID shot. In South Africa, Goziem Thamara Sitole, who stunned the world after allegedly giving birth to 10 babies, has reportedly gone missing. Her disappearance came after the government and hospitals questioned the multiple births. And now, the supposed father of the babies says he has concluded that the decuplets do not exist. Under sports, Spain's Sergio Ramos is set to depart from Real Madrid as the second most honored player in the club after playing over 670 games, winning 5 La Liga titles and 4 Champions League trophies in a span of 16 years. Finally, under entertainment, tributes pouring for the late American rapper Tupac Shakur on what would have been his 50th birthday. On Wednesday, the rap legend was celebrated for his influence on pop culture, which transcends 25 years after he was assassinated. Oh, happy birthday, Tupac.
I love Tupac. What's your favorite Tupac song?
Oh, did you put me on the spot?
I did. I went there.
California love.
Yeah,
is that right? I love it.
Do you have a favorite Tupac song, Dr. Abasi?
No, I don't.
I'm going to play you his catalog. We'll find you one.
We have to do that today.
Mine is Dear Mama.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, may he forever rest in peace.
Amen.
Let's begin what's trending in Nigeria. Garba Shehu, media aide to President Muhammadu Buhari, has come under fire on social media for saying that the suspension of Twitter has reduced the spread of fake news by governors on the platform of the People's Democratic Party. The PDP Governors Forum, in a communique on Monday, had tackled President Muhammadu Buhari's administration over its decision to indefinitely suspend Twitter in Nigeria. They accused the president of dictatorship and letting his ego get in the way of allowing millions of Nigerians the right to free expression. Responding to the communique, Garba Shehu said the PDP governors proposed no solutions to any of the nation's challenges and that instead they grasp for more money and mourn their lack of access to social media to spread falsehood and hate. Well, let's take a reaction from Humphrey, who wrote, "From pulling down the president's tweet to end SARS, and now it's because of PDP governors, while still in serious search for a good reason why Twitter was suspended." Well, Humphrey is not alone. We're all still trying to find out why Twitter was suspended. Different reasons. I mean, how does this even matter? Garba Shehu was accusing the PDP governors of not, doing anything to prefer solutions with the challenges that we are facing. But, I mean, instead of apologizing to Nigerians that have lost billions of naira with this Twitter suspension, this is what he comes up with.
An apology is definitely in order.
Yes.
And so is the reinstatement of people's Twitter rights. I mean, it's just so basic. I've said it before. This is just yet another thing that other people all over the world can do that is so basic, they take it for granted. And we are denied these little liberties here. But that statement from Malam Garba Shehu, I found it such a stinging rebuke. Is it just me? Am I getting sensitive in my old age? I was like, oh, this is really personal. He dragged the PDP governors. And I'm thinking, I'm not aware, maybe because I'm not a Twitter user, I'm not aware of any incident where a PDP governor has used Twitter to spread hate and falsehood. Are you?
That was one of the questions that we're asking. And he should have mentioned names as opposed to just generalizing and saying the PDP governors spread fake news and, all of that. Dr. Abati.
Well, this is just political rhetoric, and it's after a pattern. You see that anytime anybody criticizes the federal government, whether that person is an elected official, a member of the opposition, or an ordinary citizen, the spokespersons of government are always very quick to react. And that's why I usually make the point that being garrulous is not really an asset. It's not everything that you respond to. Sometimes there are certain things you just overlook. If you don't overlook those things, you then give the impression that you are intolerant of criticism, that you are intolerant of the opposition. And if you respond to everything, you will fall into the error of even amplifying things that people, may not even have taken note of. When the PDP governors issued their statement after a meeting, they were responding to the suspension of Twitter in Nigeria. And there was nothing they said in that others have not said. One, that they think that this is a conflict of egos between the government and Twitter. Two, they made the point that, it signals a descent into dictatorship by the Buhari administration. It's just like saying, okay, this is an attempt to censor, free speech and violate the rights of the people under the Constitution. And third, they recommended that the federal government should lift the suspension of the ban on Twitter, which serves as a platform for many young Nigerians and also is like an office for business for many small and medium-scale enterprises. So there's nothing so extraordinary that the PDP governors have said. But Garba Shehu, of course, has weighed in to accuse PDP governors of smarting from the fact that they no longer have a platform available to them to spread fake news. Fake news. Who defines fake news? What is fake news? And where is the concrete evidence to indicate that, PDP governors are promoters of fake news? If you go on Twitter, APC persons are also very active on Twitter.
Yes.
And it's not all the time that they say something that cannot be classified as fake news, including using Twitter to harass people. So, all kinds of constituencies are within that space. And that's why I said this is just political rhetoric. In the meantime, the Nigeria Computer Society just concluded a meeting in Lagos. And at the end of their meeting, they more or less also said, what the PDP Governors Forum said. And they were saying that, look, this is the Nigeria Computer Society. If government wants to take technology-related matters, decisions, particularly in this kind of situation, that there are experts within the Nigeria Computer Society that can be consulted and that can offer useful advice, and that in this particular case, they think that the federal government of Nigeria has gone overboard, that there are other ways that the government could have gone about it. They said, of course, that they think, yes, it's good to register these companies, but that it should be done in an informed manner.
Right.
So I hope tomorrow, Garba Shehu will not issue another statement abusing the leadership of the Nigeria Computer Society. So it's not everything that you amplify, that you respond to. The PDP Governors Forum could just have been ignored.
Right. All right, we'll take another story. Following the controversial ban of microblogging platform Twitter, the federal government has asked the House of Representatives to enact a law to regulate social and online media in Nigeria. At a public hearing organized by the House on Wednesday, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, asked the lawmakers to amend the National Broadcasting Commission Act to empower the agency to regulate social and online media. Mohammed said the internet broadcasting and all online media, including Twitter, should be included so as to enable the commission to monitor their content. Now, I know that you guys had Nihebe Effiong on the show, and he did talk a lot about this. But the question that I wanted to ask was, what will be the difference between this new act that they want, that the minister is proposing, to the Cybercrime Act 2015, which really is to regulate cyber security? That's what it was for. And if you recall, the minister said, not only did Twitter undermine Nigeria's corporate existence. Only yesterday we talked about the fact that he said that that Twitter enabled the NSAS protests and also caused loss of lives and property. I mean, isn't that cybersecurity? I don't.
Well, I haven't read the bill, so I don't know exactly what the provisions
that's
are.
one of
but
it.
It does tend to happen, doesn't it? If the government tries to advance a certain measure and it's unpopular, you might see a retreat, and then you might see it being proposed in different packaging. That does happen. I'm not sure if that's the case with this. But yes, we did have that conversation with our guest, Nibehe Effiong. And there's a general global push, right, towards social media regulation. But none of that attacks the rights of individuals. None of that, so far that I've seen, seeks to censor individuals in quite the manner that the Nigerian government has done. I feel the Nigerian government has gone way too far.
All right, Dr. Bati.
Well, earlier on when we discussed this, I said, well, apart from the concern about Section 2 of the NBC Act, Section 2 of the NBC Act gives the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, the National Broadcasting Corporation, the powers to regulate broadcast media, right? And, radio, that is radio and television and other forms of broadcast. What the minister is asking the House committee to do is to consider adding social media platforms, micro-blogging sites, over-the-top, farms under that particular act. And it's good that they organize an open hearing, a public hearing. But the other side of the argument was put forward at that hearing, and that's the one that I find more interesting. Groups like the Institute for Media and Society, led by, I think, Mr. Akingbulu, the International Press Center, and the Center for Media Law and Advocacy. They were part of that hearing yesterday. And they made the point that, look, what is wrong with the NBC Act itself is the fact that the Minister of Information has been given powers to control the NBC, to turn it almost into a personal department that he can direct as he wishes. And at the NBC board, he appoints members of the NBC board. And the other time, the big problem with the latest National Broadcasting Code is that there were no enough inputs from other stakeholders. And they are saying that the National Broadcasting Commission should be made an independent body, that even the appointment of persons onto its board should be reviewed, should be overseen by the National Assembly, so that it's not that someone will just appoint some people and then, assume that he alone can determine broadcast media in Nigeria, content on social media, that, that will be excessive powers concentrated in one person. Now, whatever they decide to do eventually with Section 2 of the NBC Act, they should be reminded that whatever clause that is put there must not contradict basic rights under the Constitution. Because the NBC Act itself, yes, it's an enabling act, but it's a subsidiary legislation which cannot be superior to the rights of the Nigerian people to express themselves or to own property or to associate freely or to assemble. So those are the fundamental things that we should worry about. Because in some other jurisdictions, one, government will claim that it wants to control content.
Right.
Right? So if you are not the owner of the platform, you want to control content. Two, as in India, under the intermediary guidelines of 2021, the government can also ask that you give information about the owners of particular Twitter handles. So that in itself will amount to a breach of privacy.
Right.
Of course.
So if there are violations of human rights, then there will be very serious issues, and you can expect that that amendment will be starkly resisted by other stakeholders who think that the fundamental rights of the people should not be taken away. And who says, what is the guarantee that even if that clause, that Section 2 is amended, that it will be respected or that it will be obeyed? One big issue in India at the moment is that the India technology minister is saying that Twitter, having expressed a willingness to cooperate with the government, is not obeying the regulations.
No, they're not.
They've been sending policemen to Twitter offices in India. They've been accusing Twitter in India of manipulative media. Okay, the only response Twitter India gives is that they are working at it, and they will keep working at it.
No, but that's a totally different subject. But if we're going to go there,
yes.
I have to say Twitter's behavior in that regard. Are you talking about the video of the man who was beaten up and had his beard chopped off? When Twitter did not flag it correctly, as they ought to have done, it was sort of portrayed...
No, they tagged it manipulative media.
No, they didn't.
They were supposed to remove anything that government wants removed within 36 hours.
No, it was a Muslim man that was attacked, and the claim was that he was attacked by Hindus.
Oh, that's a separate story.
No, that's not the one I'm referring to.
That's a separate story.
So I'm asking if that's
no, the one I'm referring to was the one in which BJP tweeted certain items from an opposition party, and they wanted Twitter, to remove it at some point, and Twitter just target manipulative media.
But
even the technology minister was not pleased with that.
But what I don't understand is, if they are in a country, are they not supposed to be governed by the rules of the country like they have imposed now, like Twitter, India has imposed? If the government is telling them to remove a tweet, shouldn't they abide by that policy?
So this is the thing. They're not. Like
question?
The man who was beaten up, the bearded man, and had his beard chopped off, it was tweeted by a few people that this was a hate crime because the man is a Muslim who was attacked by Hindus.
Right.
And when he was investigated, that wasn't the case. He was attacked by Hindus and Muslims about him selling fake amulets. It was nothing to do with hate. And they are criticizing Twitter for not taking it down and inflaming the tensions in their country, which sounded a bit familiar to me. So the accusation there is that Twitter is not uniform in their policies of what tweets they would delete
sometimes
or not,
they're
that
not.
they just leave.
And you know that was one of the reasons why, that's one of the reasons the federal government is very upset, because they're always talking about Nnamdi Kanu's tweet, and then you don't. But the thing is, the way the Twitter works is that people report your tweets either as hateful or abusive. Then they go through it and decide whether or not they will delete it. So the issue now is your discussion about India. So India had set up that policy, which they had already given to them a while ago, right? In February.
Yeah.
They should know that at that point. Twitter, I mean, should know that.
An interim staff to manage this, not even substantive. So it does look like they're really dragging their feet to comply.
In India, they have a redress mechanism. But the part of it that I find very strange is that they also have, the government has now appointed inspection officers who will be inspecting everybody's tweets. And that's why Inibe was making the point about Narendra Modi being intolerant and almost, transforming himself into an absolute dictator.
Correct. All right, then we'll take our final story. U.S. President Joe Biden has apologized to CNN's chief White House correspondent, Kaitlan Collins, after he lost his temper while speaking during a press conference following the Geneva summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Well, let's take a look at how the conversation transpired before we come back for a discussion.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident he'll change behavior. What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks, he downplayed human rights abuses, he even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
You don't understand that. You're in the wrong business.
Is the summit with China? Tundu, first, I must commend Kaitlan. I mean, I think she is so graceful because after the apology, she said, it's great. She was just doing her job and that the president did not need to apologize. But, she accepted the apology. But a lot of people were saying, okay, what was the difference between what Joe Biden did right there and what President Trump had been doing? We're only just seeing the beginning. But I don't believe that because he did apologize. And I think that that's a sign of a true leader.
Yes. In his apology, he referred to himself being, he said he shouldn't have been a wise guy.
Yeah.
That wasn't being a wise guy. That was being boorish, it was being uncouth, it was being oafish, and it was being Trumpian. I must say, you have no right to start giving career advice because you're the President of the United States or whoever you think you are.
Yeah.
If you're asked a question, you answer it. To say a person should change their career because you don't like their question smacks of a really kind of disgusting narcissism. Who on earth do you think you are? But he did redeem himself by apologizing. And like I said yesterday with Chrissy Teigen, I don't know, there's very few behaviors I feel that cannot be remedied by a sincere apology. He realized he should not have done that, which is better than what Trump has ever done.
Yes, he did apologize. Dr. Abati, your
well,
comment on
I think that the apology has been accepted by Ms. Collins, who says, well, he didn't need to apologize, but that she appreciates the apology. Not too long ago, we had Donald Trump, who would not even have apologized.
No, and it tells you the kind of person he is.
That a man realized his mistake, and we hope that as President of the United States, he would, not make the same mistake again.
Yes.
But it also just shows that, these leaders, they are human too, and they are always under pressure. And how they manage that pressure is what shows leadership. That's why his, decision to calm down and publicly apologize, I think is perfectly normal. However, presidential conflict with journalists is not uncommon, even in American history. Thomas Jefferson, who was the man who made that popular quote that if he were to be president of a country without, to run a government without newspapers, or newspapers without a government, he would rather choose the latter. That was what he said. But he himself later started complaining about the media when he ran election and the media became very partisan. Woodrow Wilson openly wanted to censor the media. And then, of course, you remember Donald Trump always talking about fake news, fake news. He didn't believe that the media could tell any truth. Okay, Richard Nixon of Watergate. Richard Nixon kept a diary of journalists that he considered enemies.
Yes, he had a hit list.
He saw journalists as enemies, and he was looking for an opportunity to deal with them until, the Watergate scandal didn't.
Right.
Even Theodore Roosevelt, he referred to journalists in America as muckrakers, despite the fact that they were very nice to him.
Yes.
And Vice President Spiro Agnew described all journalists as nattering nabobs of negativity. So this has been the conflict between, journalists and power figures, and even for an ordinarily very decent man like, President Biden. It was.
Well, I mean, you're calling him decent. People are saying now that he's showing his true color. Well, I mean, he's only just had a...
No, I think he redeemed himself by apologizing. If he hadn't have apologized, oh my gosh, disgusting.
Well, it may get worse. That's the thing. The fact that he apologized is great. But like you said, he had no right whatsoever at that point to say you're not, you don't. Why was he even upset? I don't know why he was upset.
You're in the wrong business.
Yes,
How dare you give
why
career
was he
advice?
upset even in the first place? She obviously misquoted what he said, so I get that. But still, you have no right.
just corrected.
Yes, you just corrected at that point.
And you know what it is? You know my thoughts about the media. I won't bother rehashing that. But the fact is, if you've agreed to engage with people, if you've taken a job where you must engage with people, then you must be civil. I mean, people come here sometimes. You have brilliant guests, but occasionally you have people coming here to flaunt their limitations in home training, and they feel that it's acceptable. If you have agreed to engage politely, or don't. You'll get into another business.
Well, what President Biden should realize, because he complained, he said, well, journalists don't ask him positive questions. They are always asking negative questions.
You don't get to choose what you're asked.
Well, journalists are not in the business of PR.
Yes.
They ask you a question in the manner they deem fit.
Yes.
Just to draw you out.
Exactly.
Which is what Kaitlan said,
to profile you, allow you to speak your mind.
Exactly.
So when you are asked a question, don't just say what you want to say.
That's period.
The journalist has no animals against you. He or she just wants certain questions to be answered.
It's narcissistic to attempt to dictate, then you start telling people they're in the wrong business.
I know. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys on what's
very much,
today. It was a cool conversation. I will see you guys
tomorrow.